everyone, welcome Phoenixes to this chat on the top 3 feminine aspects of Indigo souls. Daniela Langford here of ReDesignYourLifeForever.com and your secret weapon in navigating your world as an Indigo soul. So this week we've been touching on some of the feminine aspects that Indigo souls and other feminine souls, soul types such as like Crystal or Rainbow Children, all those other ones, what we identify with. So if this is you, listen up, because after we go over the aspects themselves, I'm going to give you a few tips to navigate your world with grace and inner poise, which I know sounds like a crazy idea to actually have that, right? But it's so life doesn't have to be so incredibly emotionally devastating and destabilizing to you, because I know how much that sucks. So you can successfully navigate the difficult times, big or small, that pop up in everyday life, because shit happens, and we want to be able to know how to handle it. So my number one aspect that is a signifier is being highly sensitive, which we've talked about, emotionally or otherwise. As you no doubt know, being super sensitive makes things quite a challenge in this very overly masculine, energized world. So no matter how, privileged or uneventful your life may be or have been, you likely realized you feel everything more deeply than everybody else around you. Consciously or subconsciously, you actually suffer for yourself and others, for the world itself. It's a lot. In my experience, this usually causes you to develop unconscious mechanisms to detach emotionally or have compulsive control-seeking behaviors that you use as a defensive tool that actually end up disconnecting you from life in a myriad of ways. So if this sounds like you, keep listening. Number 2 is that you're receptive and intuitive. We've talked about this. Intuition is your path to the spiritual forces that animate and guide you, whether or not you choose to recognize them. Your ego mind is really not super fond of you listening to your intuition, as it turns out, your naysayer, because it transcends the fear that's used by your ego to keep you small, safe, emotionally and spiritually distorted. So your receptivity, and natural intuition have been progressively pushed far, far back into the subconscious by the overly masculine religious and social doctrine that we have as a society, but is slowly coming back to the surface. They are the direct line to your inner higher voice, your higher self, to harmonizing your sense of self. So when it's blocked or distorted, you really, really feel disconnected from everything and, feel like you're lost in the forest of life. It's crazy. Number 3 is that you're empathic and you're compassionate. Feminine soul types generally have a wider active energy field than most other people. This means that you easily empathize and are compassionate, but easily become overwhelmed and are distorted by your environment if it's too busy or cluttered, stressful or hostile. And, if you lack the tools to manage and keep your energy to yourself, because it's hard. It's hard to tell where you end and someone else begins, or something else. It's almost like a radio station that catches all the different wavelengths and can't distinguish one from the other. It's very overwhelming, and I know it's one of my biggest things too. The combination of that intuitive, receptive, and empathic nature, though, makes you a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, which is the blessing. You may even be perceiving other realms, dimensions, or timelines, depending on your past life influences and karma that you've got going on. But it's always important to remember, though, that always nothing can harm you unless you let it in with the fear and the negative thoughts that block that clarity and inner power. It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to talk about, and it's, in such a short amount of time. And it really can be that's a blessing that feels like a curse. No wonder we struggle to assimilate ourselves into this world that's in its current state, but if we can receive and perceive and have other forces interact with us so readily, when we don't even realize that we're able to be influenced in such a way, I know it can be immensely traumatizing to realize, to not realize what's going on with you. The life of an indigo is an intense journey, either emotionally or otherwise. So no matter how uneventful it appears on the outside, your internal struggle is constant. Being out of alignment will make you feel flawed and out of place, and you'll end up seeking external validation and approval, and you give that inner power away because you don't believe you deserve any better, because you think that you're broken. Sounding familiar? But I want to state that everyone on the planet, regardless of their place on the soul spectrum, needs healing. Every single one of us. And it's not because we're sick or diseased or you're not damaged goods. In any shape or form. In fact, this is one of the main reasons we actually reincarnate so many times. Not because we're broken and we need fixing. Please let me stress that. But because life in a physical body is challenging, and it makes it easy to disconnect from the flow of consciousness, from our higher selves and those goals. That's the whole point, is for it to be difficult. But there's always been a driving inner force for you, and because I have it too, that brings you back on track to search for that meaning and purpose in your existence. Why are we here? You're waking up. That's why you're here. You're wired to respond to this call to wake up in this embodied state. You've been giving your power away for entirely too long, and it's actually time for you to redesign your life. You can, if you have the knowledge. You have the power. So as you imagined, you've accumulated an immense amount of impressions and karma over many lifetimes, but you carry them all right now as vibrational seeds within you. Most of them, remain dormant. The circumstances of your birth and upbringing are actually determined on a soul level by those seeds, by your karma, and all kinds of synchronicity that brings about the tendencies and issues that you need to work on to grow and get back into alignment with your higher and your true self in this lifetime. That's what it's all about. So here are my top tips for balancing, grounding, and harmonizing those feminine aspects and their pitfalls, the wounding and the codependency that comes along with that. If you can get rid of that, you can set yourself free. Number one, you do want to grieve the pain. You want to forgive those past relationships, starting with your parents, which may be the toughest. Those that weren't there for you and your dreams that you didn't pursue. Forgive. Accept them as they were, and most importantly, again, forgive yourself for interacting in any toxic or distorted dynamic, any of that. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. 2, drop the self-judgment, you guys. You got to drop it. Develop compassion for yourself as you touch on these wounds. They've been buried and festered for a long, long time, and they are bunkered in, you guys. You must show yourself compassion as you go through this process, and give yourself the biggest of breaks, yourself. Don't let that inner naysayer perfectionism massacre you through this process, or you're just going to end up back at square one like you probably have over and over again because you let your mind get to you. 3, you want to focus more of your attention and time on the things that connect you to yourself and bring you joy. Those things that place the rest of the world in the background, and I don't mean binging on your TV shows as much as we all love to do that, right? 4, you want to relearn to enjoy time alone, focused on the endeavors that you enjoy, like we just talked about. Create an exclusive personal zone of space and or time to have dates with you. Go do stuff with you. Manage your time around your projects and not your relationships, as crazy as that sounds. This will develop your emotional flexibility and independence, which is very important for us. Even if at first it feels super crazy selfish, it will help. Number 5, you've got to stop idealizing other people. Establish those boundaries. Take small, slow steps in every relationship to follow your emotional compass and intuition, and place your own desires before anyone else's expectations. Whew, right? So if you find that you've struggled with this before, and you struggle to integrate these kinds of things in a meaningful way into your life, maybe now is your time to get off the pot and get a second opinion, okay? Reaching for help is not a sign of weakness. Life doesn't come with an instruction manual. We know this. And it's very, very easy to slide back into those old unconscious beliefs and patterns if you can't see them very well. Accepting guidance and support is one of your best options to actually get shit done. Take it from someone who was so stubborn on this issue for many, many years, blocking my own success and empowerment just because I thought I could, I'm going to do it by myself. But truly, you simply just can't see what you can't see when you're in the middle of it. After all, these are patterns and habits that have literally woven the fabric of your life in this and many other lifetimes. So it's very hard to see what you can't see because you're in the middle of it. Think of it this way. From a spiritual perspective, we're all still teenage souls. We can be rebellious and stubborn, but we must become flexible and disciplined to be self-directed and enjoy our life. We have to assume that spiritual responsibility for ourselves and stop mothering everyone around us, which is a very strong tendency that we have, but it serves no one except children when they're really young. But you're actually here to integrate those feminine aspects and the masculine by embracing your receptive nature while taking actual charge of your life. So once you can commit to your self-growth, you will actually emerge empowered. It really does happen. So much clearer about your purpose in this world. It just takes that commitment to yourself. So a clarity call that I offer to you was designed to do just that, to find the clarity. I make it free to you here, everyone in the group, because of my personal commitment to my own higher self, to help as many of my fellow Indigos wake up to their own empowerment as I can in this life. Wake them up and shake them up, it says. Literally, it's knocking down my door and says, hey, you need to wake some people up because they need help. So stop hesitating and click on that link. Have our chat. You've been waiting for your wake-up call. Cock-a-doodle-doo, sisters. I love you. Let's do this. Let me help you. This is Daniela of Redesign Your Life, and I really cannot wait to help you on your journey.